Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
Welcome to the Rock Interview. I'm thrilled to have on an incredible singer, songwriter, producer, Christian artist that has won 59 Dove Awards and 5 Grammys, Stephen Curtis Chapman. Thanks for joining us on the Rock Interview today.
Absolutely, Eric. Always good to be with you, brother.
You've got a brand new single and a video out, which, it is such an incredible song. And tell us about how all of this came together.
Yeah.
With this song and with this video and the song itself, obviously I listened to it a number of times, but the video too, the visualizer with the lyric video is so powerful. And I like the way it was done with the tape, with the lyrics the video. But tell me about this song.
Yeah, for sure. So I, like all of us, singer, songwriter, music types, I process things with a song. Done that for a long time. It's where all of my songs have come from. If people listen and read a little bit between the lines, or sometimes you don't even have to, you just read the lines that are written. You can almost track my journey, my story, my life, whatever's going on personally in my life, children being born, marriage struggles, marriage, victories, grandchildren coming along. I mean, it's all chronicled in my music, and I was walking past the television probably within, the first couple of weeks of all of this getting really dark and very scary. And I was hearing something coming from my television that was very unusual for what normally you're hearing people say on television, especially if you're watching news. It's usually bickering and debating and taking sides and, arguing and who's right, who's wrong. And I was hearing this word together. I was hearing them say things like, we need each other. We're going to get through this, but it's going to be together. How are we going to do that? Let's come together. And I was like, wow, that's inspiring and unusual and encouraging and hopeful. And it was almost like a little crack of light, coming into a very dark room. You see a little ray of light, and if you're desperate for the light, you're going to go over and try to kick the door open, try to knock the window out to go, I need more light in here. This is really dark. And so that's kind of what songs can do. Sometimes it feels like it's like there's a little ray of light. If you, mess around and kick the door open a little bit, you might be able to get more light into a very dark situation. And so I kind of set out to write this song together. We'll get through this. And really just, I think having a conversation, my favorite songs are conversations that I feel like I'm having with the singer, the artist. And, I can see the panic in your eyes. You can see it in mine. We've been through some crazy things before in our world, in our life, but nothing like this. This is unlike anything we've ever experienced. But, and the thing that's amazing about this particularly is it really is, it is, no one's been immune. No one's not been affected by this. Many times if it's an economic thing, if it's this or that, or if it's, something happening in a certain area, a certain part of the country that's devastating, we feel and we empathize, but it's not affecting everyone across the board. But this has, and it's not just been, the U.S., but it's been all over the world. And it's really, it has brought us together in a way that nothing else could. And so, I wrote this song, tried to talk about just the fact that we do sometimes in the darkness, we start to, when we really don't know, we start to make enemies out of each other and say, no, I'm right. I've got it figured out. You're wrong. And the truth is none of us really know. We can't, nobody really knows what the absolute right answer is or how we do this, how we're going to get through this. We really do need each other. And so, and as one who writes music primarily about my faith and things that I believe are eternally true, I really believe, in the midst of all this, that message of together is something that we were created for from the beginning. We're made for relationship. We're not meant to do this alone, and something like a global pandemic would maybe, if we're wise or just a little bit wiser, we will let it show us that we really do need each other, that will receive that message, and that we really do need a relationship with the God who created us, to trust in him, which is what I write, so much of my music about. And so it's just, I felt like the truth of all that, like I said, I wanted to kick the door open a little bit more. So I wrote this song, got it finished, and thought, a song like Together needs to be done together. I need some other people to sing this with me. Doesn't make sense to do a song about Together just by myself. Unless,
no.
it makes a lot more sense. So yeah, really, it would be just called All by Myself, and that one's already been sung. But so I had this idea. I've been playing the Opry more. I think you and I talked about this lately.
Yeah, I love it.
And loving it. I'm 19 years old. I sang on the Opry the first time as just a kid from Paducah, Kentucky, and working at Opryland back in the day when we had our amusement park here. That was so cool. And that place has just been special to me as a kid, then having the chance to perform there and kind of jump-starting in a way my career that would lead me into Christian music, gospel music. But I've always had such a love and respect for the Grand Ole Opry and just the people there. I hosted the show at the Ryman for several years, Sam's Place. Would love to hopefully do that again at some point. So connected me with a lot of country artists who, share my faith, and, so many do. And Brad was a guy that came to mind, Brad Paisley. But I got to admit, I was immediately intimidated to even try to reach out to him, because Brad and I have done a few things together. We did a Glen Campbell memorial concert a few years ago, which was one of the most special things I got to be a part of.
Glenn had recorded some of your songs too.
Yeah. Glenn recorded a couple of songs that I'd written and covered my song, I Will Be Here, that I wrote for my wife. And so I walked in my dressing room. We were at the Country Music Hall of Fame Theater, and it was myself, Brad Paisley, Steve Wariner, Jimmy Webb, and Carl Jackson, and the Beach Boys. And I was
gosh, this sounds like a joke setup.
I know. Yeah. So I walked in. So a guy walks into a bar, and I walk into my dressing room, and Brad Paisley's sitting there, and of course I'm a fan, and I've known Brad. I run into him at Barbara's home cooking down the street or whatever occasionally, he and his family, but I don't bother him, and we just kind of, hey Brad, how you doing? And he and I started just bonding over our love and respect for Glen Campbell's singing and playing, because Glen was a brilliant musician. And so, we got done. It was like, hey, we should do something together sometime, and you always say that, but I don't know if these guys really mean it. I don't want to bug them. So I get this idea, and I'm thinking, I don't have Brad's number. I don't have his email information, whatever, but I'm going to reach out to a mutual friend that I know knows him pretty well. I said, will you just let Brad know I'm trying to reach him? And I want to make it super easy, and not uncomfortable if he just needs to pass or whatever, And He immediately said, hey, here's my number. Tell him to, give me a call or email. Here's my email. So I emailed him first and thought, that won't bug him too much. Makes it easy for him to kind of, say, no, too busy, whatever. And I send him an email, say, I've got this song and I'd love to have you be a part of it if you could. Didn't hear anything back for like 3 days. And I thought, he's probably just got a lot going on and it's cool.
Right.
My wife said, well, didn't you get a phone number? And I said, yeah, but I don't want to, you start texting or calling. That's like next level, And
right.
You said, just send him a text at least, just in case he didn't get the email. So I did. And as soon as I sent it, I saw the little bubbles, at the bottom, that means he's responding. And I was like,
right.
Brad Paisley's responding to my text message, and I was all excited. And it pops up and he says, man, you must have not got my email. I sent it when I got your email. I'd love to do this. I'm thrilled that you asked, and I love the idea, and let's do it. So that got us off to the races. I was so excited. I got on the phone with Brad, and we talked a lot about just this whole reality of how this thing has brought us together, as a world, as a nation, and how important that is, and good and needed. And he's like, man, let's tell that story. Let's do this. And so we started dreaming about who some other singers might be. And Lauren's name just came up in conversation.
Right.
And I loved watching her journey on American Idol back then.
Totally. And what a great place.
Fell in love with her. She's a great singer. And I love that she always was very vocal about her faith. And we had that in common. And I thought, well, maybe she'll know my name or know who I am. And sure enough, she was like, oh, my family will freak out. I'm doing a song with Stephen Curtis Chapman. I grew up listening to her music. And so it was so cool. And then finally I thought, ideally I would have loved, I was thinking I would love to put a gospel choir on this song. It just brings the power and takes you to church, And I thought, well, I can't get a gospel choir since all the social distancing is going on, but maybe I can bring a gospel choir all rolled into one voice, and that would be Tasha Cobbs Leonard. So reached out to her, and she was thrilled as well, and I was so blown away. She was so sweet, and she and her husband Kenneth went in the studio that day, said, we'll record some stuff right now. So we all did our parts, separately because we couldn't be together.
Right.
And part of for me, just the miracle of the song is that I didn't dictate, I told Brad, hey, sing second verse and chorus, and then anything you hear, and play guitar. So that's all him playing all the guitar stuff, which is awesome.
God.
And then I said, to Tasha, I said to Lauren, look, I don't know how this is going to work because we can't sit in a room and figure it out. So just sing whatever you feel, whatever you think works without hearing all the other people's parts. Just let's see if this makes sense. It might be a mess. I don't know. And we got all the little pieces. It was like emptying a 1,000-piece puzzle out onto the floor going, okay, is this all going to go together?
Yeah.
And it did. And it sort of, once it started to come together, I was like, I think this actually was really meant to be, it's supposed to happen. So anyway, it was cool, very cool process for me, and been such a wonderful thing to get to work with these great artists and do something, that hopefully really will encourage people. It's that old saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Right.
And we really don't, relationship, there's a line in the song where I say, and when this storm, has passed, we'll see that all we have is what we have together. And that really is, true. My family and I 12 years ago passed through, the darkest storm we will ever experience, the loss of our youngest daughter. And as that storm, it's never over. There's a new normal. We're going to be impacted by this for forever, obviously, because it's changed so much about our world. But you do get through that storm and the darkest night, and you realize in those times, and we've realized as a family, we would not have survived without each other. And often those storms do divide you, and you start thinking you're the enemy, and you start fighting against each other more. But the more we can recognize, in those times, that these are times meant to bring us to realize, even with our differences, that's part of what makes us unique, and that's part of what makes us who we are, is to be able to find ways to come together through this and recognize that that's all we have really is each other and our relationship. And so, I'm hopeful, obviously, that this song might be able to encourage that, might encourage people just to, if nothing else, to say, hey, you know what? I do need to call my friend. I need to text my mom, my dad, my grandma. I need to reach out to somebody and just say, hey, you matter, and I care about you, and are you doing okay? And many other greater things that we can do with it. We did hope to help some folks through the Opry Trust Fund and also through the Gospel Music Association Fund, two great organizations that have done so much for artists. I mean, there's so many artists that have given us amazing music, that has enriched our lives, in the country music world, artists in gospel music, obviously the world that I'm very much a part of and love dearly. And yet this has devastated so many, not just the artists and the people that sing the songs, but the people that write them, the people that support those artists, that, from tour buses, drivers to, crew guys, to all through the ranks. And so just trying to find a little way to love on those folks a little bit, through any proceeds that we might be able to raise with this song, to say, hey, we're with you. And while we get through this hardest time that's devastated so many families and so many people's, livelihood, here's a way to show you some love.
Well, I'll tell you what, congratulations on this song and this video, with Brad, Lauren, and Tasha as well. So powerful with Together. And I certainly hope that our viewers go out, buy the song, support musicians that you know and that you love, and also watch the video, because it's such a great testament that you grouped everybody to do this, Stephen. And thanks for joining us. Stephen Curtis Chapman on the Rock and Review. Thanks for coming along with us.
Yeah, great to be with you, Eric. Bless you, man. Thanks.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.